and welcome back to another episode of Massholes with Mikes. This is our, technically, Week 8 picks episode, but you may, if you're watching on the YouTube, see something a little bit different. It is a two-man show today. Kyle is out, Jacqueline is out, they're off doing their own thing. We will hopefully have them back for the next episode. So you have... let's face it, the two ugliest ones of the group. You have Jordan and myself, Jeremy, with you today, and we're going to kind of switch it up from our normal picks episodes. So normally what we do is we go through all the picks and we give our predictions as to who's going to win, maybe a standout player or two in each game. But because we only have two people, we are going to be doing a lot of Patriots-centric stuff. Just so that way it's a little bit more palatable. I know not everyone wants to listen to the picks episode, but if you want to see the picks, you can check it out on the Instagram. The graphics will be available with all the picks as per usual. So, with that being said, we are going to get into the Patriots preview part of it, and I start by asking you this, Jordan. Would you rather be a Chargers fan right now or a Patriots fan right now?
I think just from the sheer fact that we know more about Justin Herbert, because we have a larger sample of him and how good he is, how great he is, that alone skews me to the Chargers because even if the defense, which I think for the Chargers is younger and better than the Patriots, talent-wise, everything. Coaching staff as a whole, also better with the Chargers. But if they have that franchise quarterback, you can always invest draft picks and money into surrounding the cast around Justin Herbert and building around him. So I think when you look at just the quarterback itself, you have to pick the Chargers there. But then obviously, the rest of it lines up with the Chargers as well. But
So it's interesting because, in my opinion, when you want to compare whether or not you would be a fan of a certain team, you kind of have to look at three main elements. You have to look at the three pillars of a football franchise, and that would be the owner, the coach, and the quarterback. And I think it's pretty obvious that the quarterback definitely skews to the Chargers. I mean, Herbert's a borderline MVP candidate now, if not a bona fide MVP candidate. I know there's been a lot of players who have obviously had fantastic seasons, so it's really hard to tell. But then you look at the coach. I think that Brandin Staley right now is a little bit of an unknown commodity. Now he has the Chargers playing very well and up to their talent level that Anthony Lynn just could never get out of them last year. But he is still relatively unknown, as I said. And you want to compare the owners, Kraft to Dean Spanos. I mean, Spanos sucks. He is an absolutely god-awful owner. And for whatever reason, I don't know if you've been feeling this way about the Chargers, but this is kind of lead me into the general analysis portion of this game. I feel like there's always another shoe to drop with the Chargers. Doesn't it feel like that? Where no matter how good they're going, you're kind of on the lookout. You know that sooner or later they're going to screw up. And I don't know why. It's not fair to the Chargers whatsoever. But in my lifetime, it's not fair to the current Chargers whatsoever. They have no, a wealth built up within the football community knowing that, this group of guys is going to choke. But the Chargers as a whole, as an organization, in my lifetime especially, definitely do. And you always know that something's going to go wrong for them. So I'm kind of waiting for this second shoe to drop with the Chargers. But you pick the Chargers would you rather be a fan of them? I'm going to take the Patriots simply for the fact that I think they win two of those three matchups with the coach and the owner right now. The quarterback, obviously, I'm going to take Herbert. I said it before. The rosters, in my opinion, talent-wise, slightly Chargers, but it's not so much for me to think that I couldn't get a better coached effort out of Bill could beat that Chargers roster on any given day. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you gave Bill the Chargers roster, they'd be really good.
Yeah, and I think to your point about, waiting for that shoe to drop, it's the same way with the Raiders. We wait for it every year. We see the potential
Exactly.
we look at the roster and we say, hey, that roster, that position is pretty well balanced. They got a great quarterback. I mean, I guess it's very hit or miss on whether or not you think Derek Carr is a great quarterback. I think he's probably top 13 or 14 in the league. There's a lot of great quarterbacks in the league, so maybe that's still considered great. Whatever, we're talking about the Chargers, but they're kind of in the same boat, and they also play in the same division, which makes it even easier to be like, draw the comparison there. I too am kind of in that boat where I'm waiting for the nosedive and the tailspin to happen. Do I think it will? It's tough to say this year because they look so much more disciplined, and you said that Brandin Staley, as unknown as he is, he looks like a great coach right now. He's got his team playing out of their minds right now. And also, you listen to him speak to the media, that dude just even if he's just full of crap and he's talking out of his ass, that dude knows how to talk to the media. And you hear it every single time he does a press conference. Now, I guess when you asked the question, I was thinking more of like a long-term outlook. Kraft is in his mid-80s. We don't know how much longer Bill's going to be coaching. And I look at I don't know the age of Spanos, but
I don't
Brandon
know
Staley,
either. But
Brandon
I think
Staley's
Kraft
like
is older.
16 years old. So, at least by comparison to
point.
Belichick, he's like 16, 17 years old. He's a baby, and he's going to be growing with Herbert, and hopefully, for the sake of a neutral NFL fan perspective, it doesn't work out quite like McVay and Goff, where you have that
That's a
1
good
year,
point.
and then you have to completely sell off the quarterback. Herbert looks way better, but yeah.
So I think one of the interesting things is when I said Brendan Staley was an unknown commodity, it largely has to do with the fact that what is his pedigree coming in? You look at these guys, Belichick was a special teams guy and then a defensive coordinator before coming to the Patriots. Mike Tomlin was a defensive coordinator for the Vikings before taking over the Steelers job. Brendan Staley was the defensive coordinator of the best unit in football last year on the defensive end, the Rams. He was their bona fide stud of a defensive coordinator. He was highly sought after in the interview process after succeeding Wade Phillips. But he had Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey to work with, which will help any defensive coordinator. Now you look at the defense for the Chargers. Last in the league against the rush, 162 yards per game on the ground is a horrific figure. Almost 17 yards worse than the next team on the list, which is, if I try and scroll over here, the webpage is not letting me, Houston, which is kind of self-explanatory. Yeah. But the Chargers also rank, I think, 21st in total defense in terms of yards given up per game. People are really high on the Chargers. A lot of people think that they're going to be very successful this year. And I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be, because they have the talent to do it. The question is this defense a little bit of a paper tiger? Do you think that they're not all they're cracked up to be?
I mean, I do think to an extent they're leaving a little bit to be desired, but I know they've had some injuries, especially Kenneth Murray. I know he went out a couple of weeks ago. That's a big dude in terms of, I mean, both as a pass rusher and as a run stuffer. He's a machine. I know Kyle would have been jumping all over that if he were able to join us tonight.
He was in the episode on Monday as well.
They do. I mean, it is kind of like, because I remember about a decade ago, there was that Chargers team that was so dominant on offense, so dominant on defense, and the reason they couldn't win was their special teams.
2010, if I remember correctly, yeah.
Yeah, and this year, they're great on offense. They're averaging 5.7 yards per play. They're starting field position at the 29 on average. You know, and their defense is actually been worse than their offense in terms of yards per play, 5.8 yards per play. They have forced 9 turnovers. But at the end of the day, 5.8 yards per play on defense is not great, and especially since you said a lot of the issues have been on the ground. And the Patriots, they play an archaic style of football, but the fact they play an archaic style of football does bode well for them in this matchup, because Damian Harris was great last week, great the week before, finally, after a few really shaky weeks. And you'd have to imagine Ramondre Stevenson gets in there this week as well, to kind of spell Harris, at least a few plays. Maybe he gets like 10, 15 snaps in there. The Patriots, the defense of the Chargers plays right into the strength of the Patriots.
I'm so glad you brought that up. And one of the main things, and I know you couldn't join us for our recap episode of the Jets game, but one of the main things that stood out to me from that Jets game, I know it was the Jets, obviously. 54 points is still hard to put up on anybody, but the offensive line looked a lot better, didn't it? Mike Onwenu moving over to right tackle finally seems to have solidified that spot. I think we've all been clamoring for it collectively for weeks now. Move Onwenu out to tackle because he's a really good athlete and he was really good last year in that spot. I don't know why they didn't do it until now, but him over there, Ted Karras at left guard, maybe when Trent Brown comes back, you put him at left tackle and kick Isaiah Wynn in. Seems like this offensive line is starting to build a little bit of identity, because Damian Harris was running for 5-6 yards a clip before he even got touched.
Yeah, and I do also think that the offensive line improvements stem much further than just the Jets game. I thought they played pretty well overall against the Cowboys. I thought they played pretty well the second half against Houston. It started horribly, because I remember they had that really it started well and ended poorly against Houston, even though they ended up coming back and winning. I thought that that makeshift offensive line with all the COVID issues, with Ferentz in there and Yadni Kajust or is it Kajust? I have no idea.
Yeah,
he doesn't play. Yeah. He doesn't play enough for me to know how to pronounce his last name. Justin Herron out there. A lack of Yasir Durant automatically makes the offensive line look much better, but Ted Karras getting in there, they're showing the versatility that we thought they had all along. It's just now guys are starting to get healthy, and if Trent Brown can come back, like, they're not going to put him at guard. That'd be stupid. But if they can come back, and even if they can just roll him out there as a rotational tackle, just to keep his leg healthy, their offensive line is going to be pretty good. And that bodes well, again, for the rest, because the schedule doesn't get any easier. The Chargers are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the tough second half schedule.
You have some tough games coming up. You get Buffalo twice. Indy's starting to look a little bit better now. Carolina with that defensive secondary is still looming. And, of course, the Browns. I know Kyle and Jacqueline's favorite secondary team. And I think it's definitely at home, November 14th, so in a couple of weeks from now.
I don't remember if you also said Tennessee, but they play the Titans.
No, I
as
didn't.
well.
That's a good point. Forgot about them as well. Derrick Henry and Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. In terms, we've talked a lot about the matchup between the Patriots offense and the Chargers defense. Let's flip-flop it here. Do you see any way that the Patriots can limit Justin Herbert and company?
In short, no. In long, hell no.
Nice.
I think they'll be able to keep Eckler in check if he plays. I'm sure I haven't checked the injury report.
He didn't practice today. He went from full participation yesterday to no participation today. Apparently a hip issue cropped up for him.
Interesting. I'm
Yes,
looking
exactly.
at the rest of the running back room, and
Justin Jackson's still there. I don't know who else is behind him though.
Yeah.
They had I don't remember who they had, like Nick Pope or something like that.
I think whoever they have at running back, the Patriots will be able to bottle them. I think Jared Cook will be relatively not a non-factor, because I think Kyle Duggar's made some insane strides this year in coverage. He already has 2 interceptions, tied Jamal Adams, by the way. I would have said that on Monday.
Kyle said it on Monday for you.
I would have said that on Monday instead of Kyle. I would have made sure to say it. But Kyle Duggar's made some great strides in coverage. I think he can cover Jared Cook pretty well, especially since he's 34 years old now. I just don't see them being able to stop the receivers, Keenan Allen, Jalen Guyton, Mike Williams. That's a tough group to stop, especially when you don't have. I mean, J.C. Jackson's looked good the last couple of weeks, but when you don't have Gilmore,
you can make the argument that the Chargers have the best weapons in the AFC. It's probably, honestly, at this point, between them and the Bengals, because Jamar Chase has come on pretty strong lately, unfortunately.
And C.J. Uzama.
Exactly. I'm very annoyed as a Vikings secondary supporter, because I really wanted Justin Jefferson's records to stand for more than one season. It's definitely not with Jamar Chase lurking. Anyway, I agree with you. I don't think there's any way to stop it. It puts even more pressure on the offense, but after hanging 54 on the Jets last week, they need to be able to score high into the 30s to win this game, in my opinion. I don't think there's a scenario in which, forget holding them to a shutout like they did last year. The Patriots are going to be hard-pressed to hold the Chargers to 24 or less. It's going to be more than 24, especially coming off a bye, mad that they lost in embarrassing fashion, frankly, to the Ravens 2 weeks ago. This team is going to theoretically be very fired up. I like Keenan Allen. I know there are other people that love him. They think he's a top 10 wide receiver in football. He's starting to tail down towards 11, 12, 13 for me, only because he's getting a little bit older. But he's still a bona fide receiver. Mike Williams has really transformed that offense, coming on as the second wide receiver the Chargers thought that they were getting when they drafted him. It was a top 10 pick. I want to say it was 7 number of years ago. Yes.
Mike Williams was taken, 7th overall in 2017.
Exactly. They were expecting so much more from him. He's finally starting to fulfill it this year. So I agree. I don't see them being able to stop Herbert and the Chargers offense, even if Austin Eckler doesn't play. All right.
Yeah, it's going to be incredibly tough.
I guess we'll get to the pick at the end. I want to save that for after we go through some other games on the Week 8 slate. But I just want to get quickly your thoughts on the Jets game, maybe summarize it to 3 to 5 minutes, just on what you saw, because you obviously couldn't join us on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's the Jets, so it's not get ahead of ourselves and be like, oh, look at this Patriots offense. They're right up there with the 2007 team. I saw some people getting a little bit ahead of themselves. Not to that extent. I'm being incredibly hyperbolic. But, hanging 54, even on a bad defense, you still have to score 54 points. That's nuts. They had a new season high for points at halftime. Like 31 points, their previous season high was
I didn't even
last week
realize
against
that.
Dallas.
That's a great point.
Was last week against Dallas. So they're starting to trend in the right direction. And Dallas is no slouch of a team, and you've seen it since, again, the second half against Houston. The offense is starting to play with a little bit more poise, a little bit more dominance. They're like, it's not. I'm not at the point anymore where I'm just like
Nervous every time Mac drops back.
Yeah, I'm like, Mac's not going to get sacked on this play. He's either going to have a clean pocket, or he's going to be able to maneuver his way around and find an open receiver. Kendrick Bourne looks like an absolute stud. Passing touchdown and almost had a receiving touchdown as well. He would have been my number one up in that game if I was there on Monday. I know I joked that it was going to be N'Keal Harry. Hell of a catch, though. Hell of a throw by Brian Hoyer. Put it
Literally
up in
the first thing Kyle goes is, first of all, I would like to say I watched for Jordan.
It.
Yeah, exactly.
I watched it because I commented on the video, and I said, yes, one catch does warrant an up for N'Keal Harry.
Nice.
Might have been the last pass Brian Hoyer ever throws as an NFL quarterback. You never know. But
it's true.
I saw a line on Twitter that I stole from somebody because I ended up commenting it on N'Keal's Instagram post about the catch because whenever he does something, he's got to post about it.
Exactly. Those opportunities are few and far between.
Exactly. Put it up on the top shelf where the kids can't reach it. That's like honestly great line. I stole it. I don't remember who I stole it from. I'm sorry. I doubt you're listening because you're an ASU fan, not a Patriots fan. But I had to steal it from you. I told him I was going to, so it's okay. But I thought they dominated on both sides of the ball. Kyle Duggar looks great, like I said. The receivers themselves look really good. I know John practiced Aguilar, but he still had 3 catches for 60-something yards and a touchdown. I know it was off.
I'm starting to get a little bit worried about him. Only because
a little bit.
It seems like that downfield threat is really not there with him. If you're running Kendrick Bourne on the go route late in the game.
It's becoming Bourne.
But I got to see a little bit more from him because he's still dropping passes like only he can. That's why he's got a meme about him.
Yeah, exactly.
I do have a question for you, though. Now we have Hunter Henry. 4 touchdowns in 4 straight weeks since I really started to slander him. You have Damian Harris starting to get those wide open holes that he can try and take advantage of. Again, over 100 yards for the second straight week that you talked about. Do you think this Patriots team is starting to establish an identity, and can they carry that forward against the Chargers? Because the big thing from last year's Patriots team was 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Beat Baltimore, go into Houston and lose to a terrible team. Go and beat insert team and then fall again in a game that they needed to win. Buffalo on the road last year. Like, do you think that this is sustainable? Can they keep building on this?
I mean, it's tough to answer for this season because Mac is still a rookie. I would not be shocked if there was a very winnable game that Mac is the reason they lose because he throws 3 picks or whatever, or he has a game where he makes some really bad throws to open receivers or whatever. It may not have to be turnovers, or holds the ball too long and takes a sack that would have brought him out of field range, whatever it may be. There's going to be rookie growing pains with Mac Jones. I don't necessarily know. I don't know if they can build on it this year in the sense that I think they'll make the playoffs.
Okay.
As far as next season, I think so. A lot of these guys that they signed, that they brought in, have played pretty well. I know Jalen Mills is starting to be exposed a little bit. He's not a number 1 corner, and he's been asked to cover a number 1 receiver sometimes. I know JC is supposed to be that guy, but Matt Judon's been awesome, even though he hasn't gotten a sack in a couple of weeks. That's because he's getting held on every damn play, but they don't throw the flag.
Yep.
Jonu's looked good the last few weeks ever since the Saints game. He's not like loading the stat sheet.
Did it seem to you like they were trying to force feed him in this game? Because that's what it seemed like to me.
It did, especially early. I think he only had 3 catches for 52 yards, had the end around run as well.
Yeah, before he got knocked out.
But all of these guys, they're starting to establish themselves outside of Aguilar. But Aguilar found the end zone. So it's like even guys that aren't performing are still finding ways to be productive. So I think moving forward in terms of next season, yeah, I think they can build on it. This year in terms of making the playoffs, I can't get there yet. I need them to have a statement victory. I sent this in the group chat about the Falcons. Falcons are playing really well. They need a statement win for me to kind of buy in. And that's where I'm at with the Patriots. You win this week, get back to 4-4. It's a whole new season with 13 games left. That's a really good team on the other side. Then my answer might change for this season, but right now I can't get there.
I was about to ask you that. Would this Chargers win qualify as one of those statement wins that you want? Okay.
Easily.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
I thought it was going to be last year. I mean, especially since they won 45-0. I know the Chargers weren't great last year. They had Anthony Lynn, but you won 45-0 against an explosive offense. Like it sold me last year. It would sell me this year.
Yep, exactly. All right, let's move on to a couple of Week 8 games here, and then we'll finally finish up with our our picks for the Patriots game. It's kind of interesting. We're going to get a little bit shorter of an episode, which is not bad. 2-person episode, nice and short for people who are looking on YouTube. It's not going to be an hour long. So we wanted to switch things up when it came to the Week 8 game picks. So we're going to do this. We will put the graphic with all of our picks up as normal, like I said, but we want to talk about one upset that we have, one lock that we have for the week. I think we may have the same lock if you're thinking along the same wavelength that I am. And then we can, I guess, do honorable mention for maybe the game that we want to watch the most this week. I know this. I'm kind of springing that one on you, but I think that those would be 3 good topics that we can talk about, and then we'll finish up with our Patriots picks. So I'm gonna lead. I'll go first on this one, and I'll do. Let's do lock first. So I want to see how you react to this one because it's pretty easy. But my lock of the week has got to be the Bills over the Dolphins. It's in Buffalo. This game is an absolute dumpster fire. I think Buffalo is favored by 13.5, and I wouldn't be betting the spread on this game. I actually think that's kind of high because I think they may take out Josh Allen and garbage time points could be scored. But does anyone have any legitimate faith in Miami heading into Buffalo after getting shut out by them 35-0 in week 2 to go and beat this Buffalo team on the road with Tua just absolutely crapping his pants at any opportunity possible? I know you weren't able to join us for the 10 question segment on Monday, but one of the question number 2 was, would you rather extend Daniel Jones or Tua Tagovailoa? We all went Daniel Jones, and there's a reason for that. Tua's not a franchise guy right now, and he may never develop into it.
I don't necessarily think Daniel Jones is either, but he's flat out better than Tua.
And he's got the mobile upside that Tua doesn't have yet.
Correct. So especially since Tua also has that hip injury that he had a couple years ago, so It's kind of, you might want to keep him from, trying to extend plays as much as possible.
So my lock of the week, again, Bills over Dolphins. What did you have?
Yeah.
Nice.
That's, I mean, as far as games are concerned, like, there are a lot of games that I could see going either way. Like, even to an extent, Bucks, New Orleans. I could see Jameis Winston throwing 4 touchdowns against that Bucks secondary, and they end up hanging close. I guess the next closest would be Chiefs, Giants, maybe. But,
Buffalo, Daniel Jones in prime time.
Yeah, and it's in Arrowhead.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
The Bills, like you said, 35-0 last time against the Dolphins. Now they get to play them at home.
Sayonara.
Might be 60. Miami. It might be 60 to nothing this game. And again, this pains me to my core, but with every loss the Dolphins have with Tua at quarterback, they're one step closer to acquiring Deshaun Watson. As much as it pains me to my core because I don't think he should be eligible to play.
Agreed.
Like, it's almost like they're going to throw games at this point. That's just the feel I have.
I wonder if Brian Flores' job is seriously in doubt after this year. Because, I mean, Stephen Ross said all the right things, but I don't believe him in the slightest. I need to see him actually keep Flores, but I would take him back. I agree.
Please fire Brian Flores. Miami, I totally would hate it if he became the defensive coordinator for the Patriots.
That way we can kick Bill Belichick's son to the end of the bench, and I don't have to see him playing with his face on air.
Please.
All right, you get to lead on this one since I started with the lock. What is your upset of the week?
My upset of the week, and it's only because they're winless this season. The Detroit Lions are going. They're at home against Philly. I don't think Philly's particularly good. Jalen Hurts is He's really meh. Like, I wouldn't say he sucks. I called him the best terrible quarterback of all time. I think that's pretty fair. The Lions are 0-7, and their average loss is like a notch over 10 points. And they've been close in a lot of games against good teams. And I think this game could go either two ways. They could win in ugly fashion, or they will get absolutely railroaded into the ground and lose by 40. I personally think at home, Jared Goff's NFL career in a lot of ways could be in jeopardy. Dan Campbell needs that first win. They play hard for him. I think they'll end up taking this one.
They played like it was Madden last week, too, with all the fake punts and random trick plays that they ran. I'm
happy.
I'm trying to find it right now, so stand by. Oh, here we go. All right, so I have the Lions' remaining schedule, and let's just kind of go through it real quick and see if we could see another win past Philadelphia on this schedule. The Steelers, on the road. I don't see that happening. Browns on the road. Again, no. And then you have Bears and Vikings at home. Maybe the Vikings if they are really struggling at that point, because they're always due to lay a clunker against somebody who's bad. I know that for a fact. Mm-hmm. After that, you have the Broncos at Mile High, Arizona at home, Atlanta on the road, Seattle on the road, and you end with Green Bay at home. This might be their best chance to get a win.
Seattle on the road is a maybe if Russell Wilson doesn't play, but they're knocking on the door of Russell Wilson returning from his injury, so just their luck, they'll get him.
Exactly. I mean, I don't see a way. I think this is Detroit's best chance to capture a win. So I may be rolling with you on this prediction this Sunday. We'll have to see when it comes to the graphic because I have to think about that for a couple of minutes. My upset of the week is predicated on history. Monday Night Football teams that have won are 7-0 the next week. 6-0 the next week? I don't remember. Hang on. It's going to be week 8. Sorry, week 1. I don't know. Do the math. Monday night teams that have won every game their following week. Let's put it that way. I don't want to put a number on it because math is hard. And my brain is fried at the time of this recording. The Saints are going to go beat the Bucs in the primetime game.
Damn.
Jekyll and Hyde team to the umpteenth degree, Jameis Winston and company are. But for some reason, I have a good feeling about them this week. I shouldn't. There's no reason to, which is precisely why the Saints have pulled off wins this year. They beat Washington after losing to some crap team, the Giants in overtime. And some people did go with the football team because the Saints were going on the road. But no, they smoked them. Then they barely beat the Seahawks. They didn't look particularly strong on Monday night. They should lose this game by a lot, but it's in the Superdome. It's the first real quote-unquote big game that they've had since they got displaced from their stadium for about a month. And Sean Payton has looked the best of all the coaches that have gotten their quote-unquote their I gotta stop saying quote-unquote their star quarterbacks taken away. If you want to power rank them, you have, and this is going to be a 10 question next week, so people who are listening, you get in on this. Shanahan, Belichick, Pete Carroll, Sean Payton. All of them have lost their signal callers. Brady, obviously, Garoppolo to a degree, I guess, and then you have Drew Brees and who was the fourth guy that I said? Russell Wilson. So which coaches look the best? Power rank the fraud factor of all these guys. Sean Payton has looked by far the best with what he's had to work with because Jameis Winston is still not that good a quarterback. So I'm
noticing you forgot to mention Matt Nagy losing Mitch Trubisky.
Oh, that's true. My bad. I should have seen that coming.
Hey, I saw a tweet. Matt Nagy has as many wins as Kyle Shanahan, and he's coached 15 fewer games, or something like that.
I gotta send that to my Bears friend.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. Again, Twitter, not always the most reliable source of information, but you know.
Anyway, Saints are beating the Bucs. Big homecoming game for the Saints. It's going to be loud in the Superdome. All right, moving on. Honorable mention game, the game that, outside of the Patriots, that we most want to see. I have one in mind, but I'm going to let you lead on this because I think you're going to say what I'm going to say.
Yeah, I foreshadowing, or I guess spoiling what my pick will be for this game. Vikings-Cowboys, Sunday Night Football.
Yes.
In Minnesota.
Yes.
In Minnesota, I think Dallas coming off a bye week after an ugly week the week prior in New England where Dak threw a couple of picks and had the fumble, or was it one pick and a fumble on the goal line? It was not.
I think it was one pick and a fumble.
Not pretty. It was not a pretty performance from Dak. The Patriots defense made him look so much better. I should say the Patriots offense made Dak look better because the defense was so tired from having to be on the field for 75% of that game.
Agreed.
The bye week is going to do them a lot of justice. I think the Vikings are end up pulling that one out, though.
I love that pick because I'm taking the Vikings as well. And I know the other two already took the Cowboys. I don't even have to look. I didn't look at these yet. I guarantee you the two of them took the Cowboys.
You're correct.
I'm going to jump in here real quick and say that this was my game of the week. This is the game I want to watch. Halloween night in Minnesota, Cowboys at Vikings, prime time. And if you remember the last time these two teams met on prime time, 28-24 Minnesota, I believe, was the final score. They definitely won the game. I don't remember the score. It was in Jerry World. It was a Sunday night game, and I was watching it in Kyle's suite, and I believe you were there as well. I can't remember.
Yes, it was because we were watching Inglourious Bastards.
Yes, and we had a side-by-side. We had the side-by-side of the game and the movie at the same time because I was the only one, not the only one, but I was definitely the most invested in wanting to watch that game, and I was so happy that the Vikings won. Kirk Cousins won in prime time as my sinuses just get absolutely clogged again. Jeez. Sorry, guys. I'm still coming off of sickness here. The Vikings are going to win this game in the upset. I think the Cowboys are favored by 2.5 right now. The line may have moved a little bit more. I love the Vikings in this game. Give me Kirk Cousins. Give me the, not revenge game, but Dallas has historically owned Kirk Cousins, so I want to see him get a little bit of revenge here. All right.
Yeah.
Finishing up here, Patriots game picks. Can you just read off what Jacqueline and Kyle have for theirs so far?
Kyle had Chargers winning 38-27. Jacqueline had the Chargers winning 35-31.
All right, so we have 2 Chargers picks. Are you going to triple down on the Chargers picks here?
I am. I feel it's like one of those games where I feel a lot better about the Patriots' chances than my final score prediction is. I have the Chargers winning 31-20. I just think there's going to be either a situation where they should go for it on 4th down, they don't, or a costly turnover, whether it be a fumble or a pick, and the Chargers go down and score and kind of put it away late. Like, I think that touchdown to make it 31-20 will be with like 4.5 minutes or so to go. So it'll be closer than the final score looks. But I think the Patriots will, again, they have a very good ability to make a game look ugly and be close. And I just think this one's just going to look worse on the final score than it does for the entire game.
I'm very conflicted on this. I really want to take the Patriots, but my head is telling me that it's just impossible for you to pick against Justin Herbert coming off the bye. I think that Chargers offense is going to be ready to go. It's not necessarily because of Herbert. It's more for the fact that this Chargers team looks more resilient than iterations of them have been in the past. They went into Kansas City and won, and yeah, the Chiefs don't look all that good, but that's still a hard place to play, and they took care of the Chiefs in Arrowhead. They've had a couple other signature wins, specifically beating the Browns in that shootout, but I think their defense is a little bit of a paper tiger, like I said. It's just fierce in name only. I'm going to stick with my prediction that the Chargers are going to score over 32, and I'm going to say that they are going to win 37-31. I think Mac Jones will actually put up a lot of points. It's going to be very impressive, but ultimately they're going to be in a position where they need an onside kick to win, and they're not going to get it. So, yeah, that's going to be my pick. Did you put them into the spreadsheet, or am I going to have to remember that score off the top of my head?
I can put it in for you.
Okay.
You said what was the score, 37-31 or 38-31?
37-31. All right, so that's going to do it for us. Nice little 2-man show. I know it was only 32 minutes, at least that's what my timer's saying right now, but I didn't mind it. It's kind of a nice change of pace. You get all your thoughts out. It's a little bit harder with multiple people. It's just the nature of the beast. We like to have a lot of voices, but sometimes you don't get all of your thoughts out onto the show, so it was nice to get both of ours. Do you have any final things before we head out?
Well, I know we talked briefly about talking about Brandin Cooks.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Okay, great call. Yep. So, trade deadline coming up on Tuesday. Brandin Cooks very angry, apparently, that Mark Ingram has been traded from the Texans to the Saints. $1.5 million cap hit, according to Pat's Cap, I think the @ is on Twitter. They have the space to make it happen. Do you trade for him? Because apparently the Texans would be willing to take on salary as well. It would depend on the return. What do you want him, first of all, and B, what is the package you think that it would take to get him?
First and foremost, yes, I've wanted Brandin Cooks. I never wanted to get rid of him. I wanted to keep him. I loved Brandin Cooks when he was here. I didn't appreciate him trying to hurdle a man in the Super Bowl and then nearly get decapitated on a different play. But, example of somebody being too aggressive and trying too hard. I would definitely trade for him. I think this team is worthy of a soft investment. Like, I don't think you put all your eggs in one basket and try and win a Super Bowl, but, you do something to make the roster a little bit better. My package, you're adding a receiver, so I feel like you give N'Keal Harry a fresh start and you throw him in the deal just as a throw-in. I'm not saying like this is gonna dampen what the Patriots give up.
The centerpiece of the package will be N'Keal Harry.
No, I think N'Keal Harry, fresh start in Houston. He's shown some flashes of just being able to catch a damn football this year. 3 catches and 4 targets, but anyway, and a second round pick. I'd do it, or maybe a third, because I think if Cooks is a rental, make it a third. If he's not, then give him a second. Because you give him a second for Mohamed Sanu, and I think Cooks is way better than that.
So I was talking about this with Jeff earlier, my roommate here, and it was interesting because he said that he thought it was going to take a 5th or a 6th round pick to get him, and I thoroughly disagreed.
I think Cooks is really damn good.
Forget that. I was more basing it on the Texans. You based it on a previous trade that they had done, and that was something I didn't even think of. That's a really smart idea. But from what I remember, Will Fuller was definitely available at the trade deadline last year, and the Packers didn't want to go to a 3rd-round pick to get him. And he was a pending free agent because he signed with Miami in the offseason. I'm looking right now. It looks as if Brandin Cooks he's under contract for this year and next year.
Okay, so I would comfortably give up a second for him.
So, I mean, it says that if he's costing about $1.5 million this year, he's got a cap hit of 15.5 next year. Good God.
Yeah,
Dead
they'll
cap
retain some
7.5.
salary.
Yeah, so maybe the
Maybe,
Texans.
maybe,
I
maybe,
am
maybe
personally.
multiple picks and Harry if they eat like half that
I
salary
wasn't even
next
going to
year.
do multiple picks. I was going to throw in a defensive starter for them. I would go as much as, and it would be very tough. It would have to be like this guy and a 6th-round pick, or a better pick and a worse player. Josh Uche might be somebody who I'd be willing to deal, only because you have a little bit of a logjam at the linebacker position here. It's not like they're going to want any of your veterans because guess what? They're not going to be looking to compete in the next couple of years. We know Nick Caserio probably likes Uche. Alternatively, you could throw in Chase Winovich and give up a better
That's what
pick.
I was thinking.
Exactly. I didn't want to go to that one first. I wanted to start with Uche, but Winovich should also very much be on the table, obviously. But he should be, maybe you have to give up Winovich in a 3rd as opposed to Uche in a 6th. I don't know if it's necessarily 3 rounds or worth a difference in terms of value between those two players, but I personally like Uche a lot. And I'd be very sad to give him up. But if it meant getting Brandin Cooks and a nice burner for Mac Jones on the outside, something that Nelson Aguilar really hasn't been able to give you, I'd probably do it. I mean, at this point, you want to surround your rookie quarterback with guys that can succeed because he's shown that he can throw the deep ball. He did it last week.
I love Uche, and I think just strictly, I don't know what I think. Hightower's a free agent after the season. He'll probably retire.
Yep.
He's cooked. That man's. I mean, he's looked better the last couple weeks. He's looked better the last couple weeks. Yeah, Van Noy's probably gonna get cut at the end of the season as well. I'd find some contending team. Like I said, a soft investment, so you get better in the sense that you trade for Brandin Cooks, but I'd also try and sell off some dead weight like Kyle Van Noy. Because I think Uche needs to get more playing time. I think Jamie Collins has looked pretty good in his limited snaps outside of that one incredibly lazy play against Dallas. Might have just been exhaustion again. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Hightower looks goosed. And Jawan Bentley's looked really good, I think.
Yeah. Well, knock on wood on that one. We don't know where that's going.
For much of the season. So I think if you can try and get Brandin Cooks, obviously you're not going to be able to trade Van Noy to Houston. They're not going to want him. But if you trade for Cooks, you can probably send. I'm trying to think of a team right off the top of my head that could use a guy like Van Noy. Maybe like, I don't know, the Rams. It's just a depth linebacker. If somebody gets hurt, you have him as a backup because he's a veteran. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been in multiple Super Bowls, actually. He's won 2. Yeah, he was on the Super Bowl 51 team. No, Van Noy.
Yes, Van Noy. No, do you remember the play when Hightower stripped Matt Ryan and they cut to Van Noy on the sidelines?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's
his hair's just going absolutely nuts.
But I think you get better in that sense that you free up playing time for Uche. You're also getting Cooks, and then you're trading Van Noy, which is how you free up the playing time for Uche. So that's a soft investment that I think would pay huge dividends for the Patriots.
I have one more player that I want to discuss with you because I heard rumblings about him, and I know that he's a good guy, a good player because he was an All-Pro a couple of years ago. Kyle Fuller, sitting on the Broncos right now. Doesn't look like the Broncos are going anywhere. He got cut by the Bears in the offseason. 2018 All-Pro with Gilmore, I believe, or 2019. 1-year contract, $9 million, in cap, about 9.5. Now that I look at it closer, that might be a guy that you'd be willing to go get. Replace one All-Pro from that year with the other All-Pro cornerback. He may be a little bit more cooked, but at this point, I would personally rather go get Kyle Fuller at that price tag, him being a rental after the year, than going and getting Brandin Cooks with that massive cap hit next year.
No, that's fair. I mean, they definitely need help in the secondary. They need to get Jalen Mills away from playing CB1 or 2.
Yep.
Like, he just can't do it. It's not a knock on him. That's not his role. He was brought in to be almost like a Chung replacement. And Duggar took that leap, and Gilmore was out, so they had to, out of necessity, put him at one of the top 2 cornerback spots. And he looked good, I thought, for the first few weeks.
Yep.
But you need to get a corner. If you're trying to compete this year, you need him to be a corner. And I should have mentioned Jalen Mills when I was talking about guys that you have signed through the next couple of seasons that are performing well. I think he's played admirably given what he was supposed to be and what he has given you for much of the season, even though he loses a lot of tackles, which is annoying, but it's whatever, and gets burnt a lot.
Plus, obviously, Jonathan Jones going down with shoulder surgery. He's not.
Right.
Kyle Fuller's not necessarily primarily a nickel guy, but he's a cornerback, and at this point, those are few and far between on this Patriots roster.
Yeah, right. And you have like Jawan Williams should not be playing. He should still not. I doubt he should be on the roster. I question whether or not that should be a thing. Sean Wade, I don't know if he's back yet.
I like him a lot.
Protocol.
I watched him a lot at Ohio State.
Patriots apparently really loved him in the draft too, but Baltimore got him, and then they did they trade like a pick
fifth round.
higher?
I think.
And I think he was a 6th-round pick for the Ravens. So
it was a solid pick. I was surprised because they usually never make those in their first season with the team. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys for listening. Check us out on all of our social media accounts. We have @MassWithMikes on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Couldn't think of the third one. Massholes with Mikes on YouTube. This video will be up at some point tomorrow. And then me and Jordan will promote the crap out of it so that way you guys can see it pop across your feed. So for Jordan, I'm Jeremy. Kyle and Jacqueline will hopefully be with us on Monday. Have a good rest of your day, guys, and enjoy the Week 8 slate.